Alrighty, what's going on, everybody? Back with another podcast. Today we're having on my old football and wrestling coach, Coach Doherty, Derek Doherty. We're going to be talking about all kinds of things like coaching, teaching, his philosophy with all that kind of stuff. With that, I think I'll just let him kind of tell a little background about himself, and then we'll get into the fun stuff.
Awesome. As Sam said, my name's Derek Doherty. I am a high school science teacher. I've been teaching now this is my 11th year teaching. I'm also a football coach. I was 10 years as an assistant and then just finished my first year as a head coach. And then I've been coaching wrestling as an assistant for 13 years. Right after high school, I was lucky to get to go play football at Monmouth College and had a great experience there and was lucky enough to walk away with an education and, found a job back home, and just really lucky for that because I love Fort Madison. So I'm really glad to be back and in a good spot, I feel.
Yeah. And I never got to formally congratulate you. I think we message each other every now and again, but definitely congratulations on the coaching job. And I think you're doing great things, and we're going in the right direction. Being an alumni now of Fort Madison, which is crazy to say because it feels like just yesterday I was sitting in your science classroom as a freshman. But so have you always been into teaching? When you going into college, did you know that that's what you wanted to do, or were you kind of just all over the place and then you kind of just stumbled into it and the passion grew?
If I'm being honest, teaching would have been the absolute last thing on my list of things to do. My grandma was a teacher. My aunt is a teacher. So I kind of come from, a family of teachers, I guess. And it had never even crossed my mind. And when we were children, we never played school. I just wasn't interested. And I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with college. If I wanted to go to college, I was actually thinking military. And as fate would have it, I guess, my athletic career didn't end the way that I wanted it to. And I was pretty bitter about it. And I just flipped and I changed kind of my plans, I guess, and decided that I wasn't done competing and had an opportunity to go to Monmouth, and I did. And kind of a wild course there, I guess. I went in, my dad's a medical sales rep, so he's an independent sales rep. And I watched him get dressed up, shirt and tie and looking sharp and going, and he was very successful. And I thought that that's something that I wanted to do. I kind of was attracted to the shirt and tie look. So I went in as a business major, and within a couple of weeks I found out, not me at all. And so kind of flirted around a little bit, and I've always been into athletics, obviously. And I went for like a sports science major and loved my classes. And I was in classes, kinesiology and physiology of exercise, and just great biological classes. And so to kind of shorten this long story, I got hurt in college and I was in a really, really dark place. And I still really have no idea why I stayed in college, because I was in a dark place, and football was something that I really loved. And again, it was ripped out from under me, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I just kind of hung out, I guess, at Monmouth College. And one of my former teammates came down and asked me to help coach the junior high wrestling team, because he was from Monmouth and got the job. And he was like, I really don't know what to do, and I need somebody. And that directed my path towards coaching and teaching. I remember I called my mom. I remember vividly where I was. I called her on the phone and I said, hey, I'm thinking about switching my major. And she's like, again? I said, yeah. And I said, I think I want to be a teacher. And her words were, have you been drinking? And so, I mean, yeah. even my mom thought that I was crazy, and I wasn't fully sure, but I just thought about my experiences and the people besides my mom and dad and my grandma and grandpa who had the most influence in my life. And I look back to Coach Smith and Mrs. Jennings and some of my teachers, and actually all of my teachers had a major impact in my life. And it was crazy because I feel like I was really immature, but that was a mature moment in my life that I could put that together.
Yeah. And also I just want to throw this in there for anybody that's listening that might have gotten injured playing a sport, that I think both me and you know all about that kind of stuff. Don't let that discourage you from anything. You know, if you get injured, like you said, you're extremely successful now, and you were in a dark place at the time, and I was in a dark place at one time being injured, and it sucks. It really does. But there's a lot more to life than, you got to move on and carry on and do what you can, control the controllables, like you always used to say. So
agreed.
Yeah, so you weren't always into teaching, which is really interesting. But then to kind of carry on that conversation, what then made you want to become a science teacher?
I guess it was luck, because I went into PE, and I had already taken a bunch of different science courses, biological courses, because of the sports science, if you will. And I finished my degree in physical education and went and looked for a job, and I applied for the job at Fort Madison, and I didn't get the PE job. They were looking for a basketball coach as well, and there was a guy that fit what they needed, and it wasn't me, and I was pretty tore up. And that same day that I got the message, I was subbing in the school actually at the time. The same day that I got the know that it wasn't going to be me, I went down by the river, and that's my thinking spot. I'm a river rat. I love being down there. So the principal actually called me, and she said, did you realize that you're really close to a physical science degree endorsement? I said, no, I didn't. And so we kind of talked and planned out a path, and I only had to take 2 classes, and then I had my endorsement in science. And so I guess not knowing what I wanted to do with my life and taking an array of classes at Monmouth College kind of set me up, and
yeah.
lucky.
Yeah, that goes to show too that you don't have to know. It's really cliche to say, but it's really, really true that you don't have to know what you want to do when you're a teenager in high school. You know what I mean? Live your life, play sports. You don't have to know exactly what you're going to go into. The chips will fall into place. Like where you're supposed to go, the passions that you have, you'll be drawn to where you're supposed to go for the most part, I think.
Agreed.
So was science something that you were interested in school? Was that like your favorite subject at all, or what was your favorite subject in school other than PE and lifting?
Yeah, well, obviously PE. I loved PE. Looking back, I really did enjoy science, and the teachers I think make the course, because I had some fantastic teachers. English, for whatever reason, was never really my thing, but I had some really great English teachers, and I didn't mind going to class. But if I look at just pure content, science was always fascinating to me, and mainly because there's so many different sciences. So there's chemistry and the chemistry of the body, or chemistry, it goes all over the place. But I've always been, probably because of wrestling, conscious of body and conscious of what I put into my body and exercise and things like that. And that's biology, learning how the body works, learning foods to put in, especially when you're on a 1 hour weigh-in. So you need instant energy after cutting weight. I mean, you learn these things, and you're really cognizant of them as an athlete. And so, yes, I was interested in science without understanding that I was interested in science.
Yeah, for sure. And I really like what you said about the teacher makes the course, because you could be thrilled about a course. You know what I mean? History could be your favorite subject, but if your history teacher kind of sucks, then you're not going to enjoy it. But if you go into a class knowing that the teacher's going to be awesome and that you're going to have a good time and you're going to learn, then that's a great thing. The learning environment really does make it. So what are some of your favorite activities, I guess you would call them, that you do in your classroom? It's like, what's a thing that you do day in and day out in your classroom that you love to do? And
so I'm really big into life skill opportunities and talking to kids. I love relationships. I think that's where it begins. Like you were talking about just a second ago, the learning environment. If you're in a classroom, I'm a firm believer, because it worked for me anyways, that if you have a relationship with whoever, like, you're willing to do more. And
Yeah.
I had a really good relationship with my coaches, and I would have been willing to run through a wall. I've also had teachers that I had really good relationships with. And like I said, maybe I didn't like the content, but I wanted to work hard for them. And it just, it's a great environment. I've also had teachers that didn't want to have a relationship or whatever. And to be honest, I hated going to their classes because it was strictly content, which the content is important, but I believe in relationships first. So one of my favorite activities, I still do it. I started it the day that I took over a classroom, was I do a thing called Cue of the Day. And it's some sort of reflection question. I'm really big into self-reflection, and I wish that I would have had that when I was in high school. And that's why I liked it. I was over the summer when I had already been hired and kind of planning, I thought about the gaps in my life and where I probably could have bettered myself. And I think that reflection was a huge thing, because as a teenager, for all teenagers, it's hard for them to see past the tip of their nose. They're thinking about right now. And if you can get them out of that and get them to think, a little bit in the future and even in the past, like what went well, what didn't go well, type of things. So I love finding different questions to ask them and having those conversations. And I don't know if administration likes it or not, but we've sometimes burnt a whole class period.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's a waste, because
No.
kids are wanting to talk about life and different things, and I get to share my experiences, they get to share theirs. We're building relationships. We're going to get to science, I promise you, but I just think Cue of the Day is a fantastic thing.
Yeah, I can still remember sitting in freshman physical science and doing the Cue of the Day, and then being like reading it and then saying, I've never, being a 15-year-old or however old I was like, I've never thought about that. You know what I mean? And bringing those questions into somebody's life and actually making them think about things is kind of the point of school in the first place. So yeah, that's definitely not a waste of a class period. It's probably
it's cool, because when I run into kids who have graduated and gone on and they're in their careers and things, that's usually one of the first things when we start talking about when they had me as a teacher. They're like, hey, do you still do the Cue of the Day? Absolutely. I've had kids that were in college and they say, hey, can I still get on and respond to that? Absolutely, man. I don't care if you're 27. If you want to get on and you think that this helps you and opens your mind, let's do it. I mean, life is learning, and it should be lifelong. Learning should be lifelong.
Yeah. And I just kind of want to throw this in there and see where it goes. I'm lucky enough to be part of the class that my freshman year, you do AE obviously now too. Do you do 2 blocks now, or is it higher than that? Or
Yep, I do 2 during the fall, and then 1 the rest of the way out.
Okay, yeah. So I was lucky enough to be part of that, because there's a lot of classes before me that were never a part of AE, or they didn't have that kind of program set up in school in place of like PE or something like that. But being a freshman, we didn't have that. We kind of only had it for wrestlers. I remember coming in at 6 a.m. and getting our workout before school. And then sophomore year, all of a sudden, instead of doing PE, I had this class where I could go and lift during the school day, which was an amazing opportunity. And I think any successful program in terms of sports has that. It has an AE class in place. So do you enjoy, I don't want to say, do you enjoy that more, or do you find yourself switching kind of more towards that direction than the science direction, or how do you balance the two?
Yeah, I mean, they spoiled me, to be honest with you. And thankful for Fort Madison administration, because I called a meeting and I have a friend who's been kind of my mentor. He's at Cedar Rapids Jefferson, and he does this. This is his full-time job. He does performance PE is what they call it. And the dude is a wizard. He's a great friend and always there to help me out. And I went and I job shadowed him or watched his program one day, and I brought it back to administration and said, can we talk about the possibilities of this? And it goes back before me. I know we had a coach that was trying to get it. The guy that was doing the strength stuff before me, he had been trying to get it in the class and whatever. But the conversation that we had was, we want kids to represent Fort Madison High School, and extracurricular wise, obviously, as well. So athletes, like you said, were coming in at 6 o'clock in the morning to get their lift in, going through a full day of school, practicing until 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. So they're putting in 12, 13-hour days. And that's a lot, you know? So my thing to them was, can't we build this into the day? Because these kids already sacrifice enough. I mean, they're on the road and they're competing and doing a lot of different things and doing a great job of representing Fort Madison High School. So administration was totally on board. And we got it cooking right away, which was awesome. Now, to me, it's science. I mean, not to me, it is science. So I'm teaching science all day long, whether you want to talk about in the weight room or in the classroom. We're talking about kinesiology a lot. We're talking about anatomy phys in there. And the biggest thing that I promised admin was, we're not going to just go in there and pick things up and put them down. Yes, it's weightlifting, but I want them to walk away with an education. And so we talk about how the body moves. We talk about why hinge movements are important, and squats and pushes and pulls and all of the body parts that go along with it. Because, you know, as you get older, and that stuff's not built into your day, most people want to go and work out and stay healthy and feel good. Understanding your body and how it works is a key component to that. So we want them to be educated. It's not just weightlifting and all they do is squats in there.
And it definitely worked, because I mean, I still do the hip flexor thing like daily. And you know, it's going into a weight room and knowing what the hell you're going to do when you're by yourself, when you're 25 years old, you know, so you're not hurting yourself, or and you're doing proper form and all that kind of stuff, which I know that you focused on at least for a week in the beginning of the class. You know, in the beginning of the class, you didn't even put weights on the damn bar. You learned proper form, and that's what you went with for a week. Even people who are seasoned vets did the same thing, and you know, that's fantastic. So in terms of teaching, this isn't necessarily a life question, but what kind of drives you? Is it just the idea of allowing these kids to grow and foster education? Is it the idea that you can help them somehow in their lives? What is the main driving force in your education?
Yeah, I mean, what you just said, I want to make an impact. You know, I want to help somebody become better, and that's my goal every single day. If I can improve somebody's life 1%, we're making progress. And you know, there's a lot of people out there who they need a teacher, a coach, or whatever. And I want to make sure that I'm available for that person if they're in need, because we all come from different family backgrounds and situations and things like that. And, you know, I was in college, and I realized that, like, listening to some of my teammates' stories, life stories and things like that, and the impact that their coaches had on them, and the impact that my coaches had on me. And my father was, I mean, my parents are still married, which is kind of rare, I guess. And, you know, I had my parents making these huge impacts on me, and they were fantastic parents. I had coaches. I mean, I'm a lucky guy, and I just wanted to give back. I want to make sure that, you know, I'm doing something to help people.
Yeah, for sure. I think when it comes down to it, that's what most teachers get into it for. You know, they want to give back and they want to help people. And I mean, what more can you do in life than those two things? So this is kind of switching gears a little bit, but not really. How do you find a balance? Is it hard to balance teaching and coaching and then your personal life, your family life? Is there a balance in there? Is it hard to find that balance? Do you find yourself doing teaching and coaching all day, every day, and maybe not focusing enough on family or personal life? Or
Yeah, it's extremely difficult, and I was really bad at it at first, because it is an obsession. You know, I mean, in teaching and coaching is a big job, and if you want to do it and you're going to do it to do it well, you've got to put in the time. But I was really bad, to be honest with you, at balancing things, and I couldn't separate personal life from professional life. And it's something that I still work on to this day. I'm not saying that I'm good at it now, you know, but I'm working at it all the time. And I try to set times where, hey, this is where I'm done. and I've got to stick to that. And my college football coach, I watched him speak a couple of years ago, and he said his was, as soon as he pulls into his driveway, no longer is it football. So if a recruit calls him, like, I want that recruit, but I want my family. And maybe it's maturity, maybe it's I don't know, but I'm working at it. It's super hard to balance.
Yeah, for sure. So you have your teaching philosophy, you have your coaching philosophy, which we haven't really got into. Your teaching philosophy is kind of, you want to help others, you want to give back. So what would you say your coaching philosophy is? Is it kind of the same thing, or is it tweaked and different?
Yeah, no, it's the same thing. I mean, my teaching philosophy, I want to provide a safe environment, and I want the environment to be a family environment. And so for football, that's what we talk about, is family. And like I said earlier, we all come from different aspects of life, right? Like everybody's family is different. And, one of the things, the top quality in our program that we want is love. Because, I mean, I hate to say it out there, but there's some people who don't know what love is, because they don't get it. And they don't know what a family is either, because maybe it's their family is abusive or whatever, and just throwing things out there. And so to them, that's what family is. And one of the first things that we do is we talk to them about what our definition of family is. And it's love and support, and it's unconditional. And if you screw up, we're going to let you know about it, but that doesn't mean that we don't love you. And we've always got your back and things like that. I want that same thing in the classroom. Obviously extracurricular, because kids choose to be a part of your program, versus, hey, I have to take a science class, I have to take biology. That makes it different. But same thing. I want to help people out. And I realize now, when I was an athlete, I thought I was going to the NFL. I thought I was going to be this. I thought I was going to be that. I mean, everybody, I think, does, for the most part. But the things that I benefited from because of sports have made me the man that I am, and given me some awesome opportunities. And I want that for my guys. Yeah.
At the end of the day, this is my opinion. You remember the wins, the losses, you do, and they sting and they suck if you lose, and it's awesome if you win. But at the end of the day, you remember the guys around you that you built relationships with. I remember the scene from Remember the Titans, when it's all these different groups of people, they're all from different backgrounds, they come together, and they build something, they build a family, like you said. So the wins and the losses are important, because they are, but at the same time, it's about building a culture and a family, and learning from each other and growing.
I agree.
So when you first started coaching and teaching, have your philosophies changed over time at all?
Yeah, they have. I mean, don't get me wrong, winning is important, and it's at the top of the list. But I think that there's a lot of things that go into winning. So those life lessons. I mean, we talk about in football, we want to educate through football. We want these guys to be better men because they played the game of football. And maybe deep down, I understood that that's what it was, but I wasn't able to openly express that. I was a wrestling coach, and I wanted my guys to be state champions. And it was harder for me to see some of these things, to step back when things were going wrong, whether it was a bad weight cut or whatever, like talking to them about life. Yeah. And I think that's just probably something through experience and maturity, and kind of giving them a different outlook on it, hopefully, because weight cutting sucks, man. Like, I've done it, you've done it. It's not a fun experience. And the more that you can share and talk about different things that it's going to help them with, because all you care about is getting that peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but I think that it helps.
Real quick, this just popped into my head. It really does speak powers to like how strong your mind is, because I remember being so hungry before weigh-ins, and then the instant you stepped on the scale and got off and you made weight and you were able to eat, you're no longer hungry. It's just like, when you can't have this thing, it's like you need it. But then the second you can have it, you're like, oh, I'm not hungry anymore. It's time for business. It's time to step on the mat. But I mean, that speaks power to how strong your mind is, and setting your mind to things and all that kind of stuff.
I agree. I think that's why wrestlers are a different breed. I mean, the sacrifice that these guys make, and nothing against any other sport. Obviously, I'm a head football coach now, so I love football, and I played football in college. But wrestlers are a special breed of people because they understand sacrifice like none other, and
Yeah.
I'm super thankful for wrestling.
Yeah.
It probably had the most influence on me than any other sport.
Yeah. So kind of switching gears a little bit, maybe talk a little bit about how the current situation with all the pandemic things and everything going on, how that has affected your teaching, which obviously you're not really doing right now, but also your coaching and what you're doing with maybe your players and how you're kind of battling through this kind of stuff.
Yeah, like I said, relationships are important to me, so it kills me. I love seeing our guys. And you know what? I think I learned this through Coach Smith, and he always said if there's a negative that happens, you got to turn that negative into a positive. And sometimes that's hard, but like I said, through maturity and things and just reflection, I know that I love football. I know that I love wrestling. I know that I love the weight room, and I love science. But the thing that kind of dawned upon me is more than those things, I love these kids because I miss seeing them. I miss talking to them. I miss our day-to-day banter. I miss just being with them. And that sounds crazy. I mean, I think that when summer's coming, you kind of anticipate it, and you're ready for kind of that part of your life, even though in the summer I'm still at the school all the time and I have athletes coming in and we're always there. But this was ripped out from under us, and we can't see each other. I'm not going and seeing these guys at the weight room and things like that. And so it's impacted me. We've done different things. We do some Zoom meetings. I don't know if Zooms is the right way to say it, but I'm looking like that old guy now. So, I mean, we do meet and we talk through that, and thankful for Snapchat groups and things like that. Like you and I were talking about before, we have an app that we run our athletic enhancement program through. So I'm sending them workouts, hoping that they're doing it, that's probably the hardest thing if you're looking for like the admin side of things is accountability right now. They can tell me that they're doing them. I don't know. I try to remind them that August is coming and it'll show if they don't, but like I said, it's that tip of the nose thing. Kids can't see that. They're thinking about right now. They're thinking about staying up until 3 a.m. playing Call of Duty and sleeping until noon, 1 o'clock, and then kind of going about your day. And
and like we were talking about before, it's controlling the controllables. You know what I mean? No, it's nobody's fault. We can't control it. We just have to overcome it and become better people because of it. And it's tough to do, and it's definitely tough for a high school kid to get up and you send workouts every day to do a workout, but it's what you got to do if you want to be great. You know what I mean? If you want to grow and become a better person. So,
well, I've been doing the workouts with them as far as the same ones, and I'm honest with them. I'll send it in the group chat and I'll just say, man, I am not motivated today. Like, I'm tired. My allergies are kicking my butt. I don't feel like doing this, but here's the difference. I'll do it. I'm going to get it done. And I hope that they enjoy that mentality.
Yeah. So kind of getting into the end here, the back end, what is some advice that you would have for a new coach and teacher that may be watching this video, or for me going into teaching and coaching? What would you say is some good advice? Yes.
I think one, enjoy it, because I put a lot of pressure on myself anyways. And most of us do that. I mean, most coaches were athletes, and athletes usually put a lot of pressure on themselves. I did that really early on, and I was very results driven, which again, super important, but I kind of constricted my fun with it. And you can burn out, Kids burn out of sports all the time. A lot of it's because they don't have fun with it. They don't allow themselves to have fun. And a lot of coaches do that as well. And so I think enjoying it. The other thing is be open-minded, and that's a hard thing when you're young because there's an arrogance level, and not just young all the time, but I know I went through a period of my life where I thought that I knew everything, and I'm talking about as an athlete, and as a coach, where I was like, I know what's going on. This is how you do things. You can learn something from everybody. And that's the one thing that I've picked up. I've worked for enough coaches now and been around enough coaches that you can learn something from everybody. It's not always how to do things, like the right way. Maybe it's, hey, I don't want to do that, because those are probably the most influential things when I reflect throughout my experiences as a coach now. The things that I realized if I was ever a head coach that I didn't want to do, those are the things that stick out in my mind.
Sweet. Any closing remarks? Anything you want to talk about or say? Or
I'm just really thankful for you allowing me to be on here and getting to talk. I mean, I love talking anything Fort Madison education, Fort Madison sports. I appreciate what you do and excited to see you grow through the future.
Yeah. I'll let you kind of plug anything you want. You can plug your Twitter. You can plug anything you want at the end of it. And also, I'll leave it in the description below this video for anybody to check out.
Awesome. Yeah, my personal Twitter, at Coach Doherty 20. I use that one most of the time. We do have a Fort Madison football one, but usually it's just retweets from my personal one. But get on, follow, let's have conversations. Twitter is really big right now with this pandemic, where tons of coaches are getting on and talking. I love having conversations on there. So
yeah. And also ending here, just talking to the audience, if you guys want to hear more of Coach Doherty, he's always on coaching culture and athletics, I think that's what it's called. He's always on that podcast all the time. So you can go on Facebook and just type that in. And I'll even leave a link to that in the description so you can look at what he has to say too.
Awesome. Thanks.
All righty. So that was Coach Derek Doherty from Fort Madison.